Hi, my name is Reid Durtschi, and this is an overview of the game audio I created for the open source first-person shooter game Cube 2 Sauerbraten. In this video demo, I will showcase the various techniques and examples of sound design that I created and implemented into the game using the middleware FMOD Studio. To create a new soundscape, I removed all the sound from the original Cube game and replaced it with my own recorded weapon and environment sound effects, player and enemy vocalizations, and adaptive music compositions. The first thing that I did for this project was decide which sounds I wanted to create and implement into the game, and also what level of the game I wanted to use for my demo. In this case, the level I chose was Lost in Space. I created an extensive asset list of proposed audio and sound effects that would be created and implemented into the game. In all, around 175 total sound effects and variations were implemented into the game. The creation of this asset list not only helped me track the history and development of the audio used in the game, but it also acted as a roadmap and timeline for assets that were completed, needed improvement, or modification. Variety and authenticity of in-game sound is vital for player engagement and bringing realism to any game. With this in mind, I used extensive samples from my sound libraries and personal recordings to create authentic sound effects for the game. This included weapon sound, vocalizations, and environmental sound effects. To create authentic weapon sounds, I built up the attack, body, and tail sound of a weapon being fired and released from its respective chamber. These samples were grouped together and processed to create a complete sonic package. All weapon sounds created had several variations recorded. These variations were implemented into FMOD and were randomized for playback during gameplay. Pitch and sometimes volume were modulated to present a more dynamic presentation whenever a weapon was fired. For the shotgun and rifle sounds, I also replicated the sound of shells and casings being expelled from the weapon during repeated firing and loading. These sounds were timed to match the firing of the weapon in-game and were also resampled and randomized to add variety to the gameplay. The creation of the grenade launcher sound brought a unique set of challenges in that there were 3 different events that had to occur in succession. First, the grenade had to be fired and expelled from the launcher. Second, the grenade had to make a bouncing noise when striking any surface in the game. And third, there had to be an explosion sound timed to replicate the detonation of the grenade. To replicate the sound of the grenade being launched, I used a combination of sound samples from an M203 grenade launcher and a sample from a pop gun. The toy pop gun sound added a great low-end attack to the grenade launcher and really added a nice punch to the weapon sound overall. The grenade bounce sound was replicated by using samples of empty tin paint cans being dropped onto the ground from different placements. And finally, the grenade explosion was created by creating and processing samples from a flashbang explosion and the tail end of an impact explosion. Enemy sounds are created using distinct vocalizations and sampling that I thought would encompass and represent the vocal dynamics of the enemies themselves. This could include grunts, pain sounds, and death sounds. For each enemy, I recorded samples of myself producing a vocalized sound, or I manipulated a sample from my sample library. I then used processing, such as isotope trash distortion and isotope nectar, on those samples so that they would have an enhanced presence within the game. One example of an enemy vocalization I created is the Hellpig enemy. For the grunt and pain noises, I sampled my own vocalizations, and for the death sound, I manipulated and processed a sound sample I had in my sample library. Now we can hear what these recordings sound like after adding the distortion from isotope trash and vocal processing from isotope nectar. It's subtle, but you can definitely hear a stronger, louder, and more powerful presence in these sounds. The vocalization process described and shown here was replicated throughout the game for both player sound effects and enemy sound effects. Once a player or enemy sound effect was created, it was implemented into FMOD as a sound event. Each grunt, pain, or death sound event would have multiple iterations of the sound effect that would be put in a multi-sound container within FMOD. A single iteration of the sound effect would be set to be played back randomly anytime a player's action would trigger the sound effect in the game. This randomization helped to keep the sounds fresh and offer up variety during gameplay. One unique object of the level I used for my demo was a jump pad that propels players and enemies onto a higher level platform in the game. To create the unique sound of this object, I combined multiple samples that included robotic footsteps, industrial sounds, and synthesized impacts together to give the mechanical spring and release hydraulic sound unique to the jump pad. An additional variation I added to the game was item sounds. I wanted ammo, health, and armor items to all have their own unique sounds and also give them each a quality of positive reinforcement, especially with health items and armor. One final thing that I added to the game was a piece of original adaptive music. I created this music to not only fit the dark and industrial environmental theme of the Lost in Space game level, but to also accompany and propel the action of the gameplay itself. I also used FMOD to make the music adaptive to the player's health. Specifically, once the player's health reached a critical level of 30%, a low pass filter was implemented to let the player know that their health was dwindling and that they should seek a health pack item soon or risk further damage or death. Thanks for watching my FMOD demo reel.